Most men fail not because women are complicated, but because men walk blindly into emotional landscapes they do not understand. Tonight, we solve a timeless problem. Why do women react, feel, and choose the way they do? And how can a man navigate these reactions with the cold strategy Machiavelli himself would admire? In The Prince, Machiavelli warned that those who ignore human nature become victims of it. So in this video, we step into the shadowed corridors of dark psychology, unveiling 10 feminine weaknesses every man should understand, not to manipulate, but to survive, adapt, and lead with clarity. In every age of men and women, one truth has ruled more powerfully than logic itself. People respond not to what is real, but to what they believe is real. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He warned that rulers fall not because their enemies are strong, but because their image grows weak. And in the realm of relationships, this law becomes even sharper. When it comes to feminine psychology, perception is not merely important, it is the battlefield, the weapon, and sometimes the victory itself. To understand a woman, a man must first understand the power of appearances. A woman does not just observe your actions, she interprets them, analyzes them, and attaches meaning to even your smallest behaviors. She judges your confidence by the steadiness of your voice, your ambition by the way you talk about your future, your discipline by how you carry yourself. And the most interesting part, these perceptions, accurate or not, shape the entire dynamic between you and her. This is where Machiavelli's philosophy slips quietly into modern relationships. He believed that it is often better to appear virtuous, strong, and stable, rather than actually be all those things. Not because hypocrisy is heroic, but because human beings rarely see your inner truth, they only see your presentation. In feminine psychology, this effect multiplies. A woman forms emotional conclusions from surface signals, and once those conclusions take root, they influence her attraction, her trust, and her expectations. Think about this carefully. A man who appears confident, even if he is working silently through his insecurities, will be treated like a confident man. A man who appears focused and purposeful will be respected like a disciplined man. Women are not fooled by lies, they are influenced by consistent demonstrations. If your behavior gives the impression of strength, they respond to that strength. If your behavior suggests weakness, they feel it long before you speak of it. Perception is the invisible stage on which the entire emotional play unfolds. Now here's the deeper psychological layer. Women navigate the world far more emotionally than men. This does not mean they lack logic. It means their logic is intertwined with feeling, intuition, and subtle signals. They sense tone, energy, intention. They are highly attuned to shifts in your attention, your interest, your confidence, your presence. To them, these shifts are not small, they are warnings or invitations, and the meaning they assign to those shifts can completely alter their behavior toward you. Let me give you a simple example. If you appear too eager, she perceives you as emotionally dependent, and her interest quietly decreases. If you appear detached, she perceives you as mysterious or self-sufficient, and her curiosity rises. Notice something? The truth doesn't matter, her perception does. You might be completely stable and hardworking, but if your actions make you appear insecure, she responds to the insecurity. You might feel deeply for her, but if your behavior makes you appear indifferent, she responds to the indifference. Machiavelli would say, control the perception and you control the response. And here's where men make their greatest mistake. They believe honesty alone is enough. They believe showing vulnerability without balance will draw sympathy. They believe their intentions will speak louder than their actions. But human psychology does not work like that. Intention is invisible. Only behavior is visible. Only perception is processed. Only presentation is interpreted. Women, whether consciously or subconsciously, measure a man's value through signals: how he handles stress, how he behaves under pressure, how consistently he maintains his frame, how he responds to conflict. These signals speak louder to them than your promises, explanations, or emotional speeches. You can say you are confident, but if you behave anxiously, The perception outweighs the words. You can say you are ambitious, but if your life appears stagnant, the perception becomes your reality in her mind. This is why the leverage of perception is such a powerful psychological principle. It allows you to shape the emotional environment without manipulating emotions. It's not about pretending, it is about presenting the strongest, clearest version of yourself. It is about understanding that human beings, especially women, do not fall in love with your reality. They fall in love with their perception of you. They respond to your aura, your stability, your energy, your composure. In relationships, perception becomes the currency of attraction. A man who appears composed during conflict creates emotional safety. A man who appears ambitious inspires respect. A man who appears selective creates value. A man who appears secure creates trust. And whether you actually possess these qualities or you are still developing them, what matters today, what shapes her reaction today, is how she perceives you in this moment. This is why Machiavelli taught that power is maintained through controlled presentation. Because the world does not reward the man who is merely good, it rewards the man who appears good and backs it with action. Women respond to this dynamic instinctively. They admire men who move with quiet certainty. They trust men who appear emotionally grounded. They desire men who seem to know who they are and where they are going, because perception gives them something priceless, a sense of clarity in a world full of emotional noise. And once you understand the psychology behind this, you begin to see the invisible game being played in every interaction, every conversation, every moment of silence. If Keynote 1 revealed how perception shapes the battlefield, this one exposes the true engine that drives feminine behavior, emotion. Machiavelli understood that human actions rarely stem from logic alone. People may claim to reason, but in truth they feel, they react, and then they justify. Nowhere is this more visible than in the psychology of women. To understand emotional influence is not to manipulate. It is to navigate a world ruled not by facts, but by pulses of feeling that rise and fall like tides. A woman's emotions are not random storms. They are patterns, predictable, responsive, and deeply connected to the signals she receives from the people around her, especially the man she is emotionally invested in. Most men misunderstand this reality. They believe that if they present rational arguments, calm explanations, or logical solutions, the emotional tension will disappear. But logic cannot extinguish fire. Emotion follows its own laws, and whoever understands these laws wields quiet influence. Let's step inside the feminine emotional system for a moment. A woman feels before she thinks. Her instinct absorbs the tone of your voice, the energy you radiate, the certainty you carry, long before she processes your actual words. This means your emotional presence speaks louder than your sentences. A man who enters a room tense, insecure, or chaotic will trigger discomfort in her before he even explains what's wrong. A man who enters with stability creates calmness even if he says nothing at all. Women are wired to react to emotional temperature, not just verbal meaning. Here is where Machiavelli's shadow reappears. He believed that influence is not seized through force, but through understanding what moves people internally. For women, emotion is the compass. If you want to understand their decisions, study their emotional atmosphere. If you want to predict their reactions, learn the language of feeling without using a single word. Emotional influence is not about controlling her feelings. It is about mastering your own first. Men who cannot regulate their emotions lose power without realizing it. When you become angry too easily, she perceives you as weak. When you become jealous too quickly, she sees insecurity. When you become cold to punish her, she senses immaturity rather than strength. Every emotional outburst reveals a crack in your armor. Women do not fear strong emotions. They fear emotions you cannot control. To influence emotionally, you must become the calm center of the storm. A woman's emotional world is fluid, dynamic, sometimes overwhelming even for her. When you maintain internal stability, She gravitates toward you instinctively because your stillness creates safety. Machiavelli would say that the leader who stays composed during chaos becomes the anchor everyone relies on. In relationships, emotional composure is the anchor that shapes her perception of your strength. But emotional influence does not stop at calmness. It extends to something deeper, understanding emotional triggers. Every woman has triggers, specific fears, hopes, insecurities, and memories that shape how she responds. These triggers are not weaknesses, they are keys that unlock connection. A man who listens closely, observes patterns, and pays attention to what softens her, what scares her, what excites her, gains insight into her psychological landscape. This insight becomes influence, not because you use it against her, but because you can guide conversations, resolve conflicts, and deepen connection with strategic awareness rather than confusion. Now let's explore how emotions guide choice. Women rarely choose based on the logic of what a man says. They choose based on the feeling his presence evokes. A man can promise her the world, but if he evokes instability, she withdraws. Another man may offer very little, but if he evokes passion, comfort, excitement, or safety, she moves toward him. Emotion is the invisible scorecard she uses to evaluate relationships. The more attuned you are to this, the more effortlessly you navigate her world. Men often misjudge this dynamic. They interpret emotional shifts as irrational behavior. But emotion always has a root: fear, insecurity, hope, need for reassurance, desire for connection, or reaction to perceived distance. When a woman pulls away, she is not being dramatic. She is responding emotionally to something that disturbed her sense of safety. When she becomes overly expressive, she is not being unstable. She is releasing accumulated emotional energy. When she overthinks your silence, she is not being needy. She is responding to ambiguity. Emotional influence lies in how you respond to these moments. A reactive man throws more emotion into the fire, making it burn higher. A strategic man listens, observes, responds with steadiness, and allows her to dissolve the emotion without amplifying it. Machiavelli would describe this as letting the fire weaken itself rather than feeding it. There is also a quieter layer of emotional influence, the ability to create emotional contrast. Women remember how you make them feel more deeply than what you say. A moment of genuine reassurance after tension becomes 10 times more powerful. A moment of passion after distance becomes unforgettable. A moment of vulnerability after strength feels unexpectedly intimate. Emotional contrast is the rhythm of connection, and those who master it become unforgettable partners. Finally, understanding emotional influence means recognizing that women do not want men who eliminate emotion. They want men who can handle it. They want men who can sit in discomfort without exploding, who can listen without dismissing, who can lead without dominating, who can reassure without begging. Emotional influence is the art of presence, the skill of balancing softness with strength, and the ability to guide the emotional atmosphere rather than drown in it, in every relationship. No matter how modern, how romantic, how equal it appears on the surface, there exists a quiet, undeniable truth: power is always present. Machiavelli warned that wherever humans interact, some form of hierarchy emerges. Someone leads emotionally, someone follows, someone influences, someone responds, someone holds the frame, someone adjusts. And this balance or imbalance shapes the very foundation of attraction, respect, and long-term connection. Women, more than men, are deeply attuned to power. Not the brute kind, not physical dominance, but psychological power, the kind that reveals itself through confidence, boundaries, consistency, emotional control, and the ability to remain unfazed in the face of pressure. Women feel this power instinctively. They read it in your tone, your decisions, your responses, your self-respect, and the moment they sense weakness, the dynamic shifts.
Let's explore this with the precision Machiavelli would appreciate.
Power in relationships is not about control. It is about stability. Whoever maintains control over their emotions, their desires, their impulses, naturally gains influence over the dynamic. A woman becomes uneasy when a man's emotional state depends on her reactions. If your moods shift based on her behavior, you lose the upper hand. If you chase excessively when she pulls away, you surrender your frame. If your confidence collapses whenever she criticizes you, you hand over the authority of how you feel. This is the core of power dynamics. The person who stays grounded becomes the center of gravity. And this isn't manipulation, it's psychology. Women gravitate toward men who do not break under pressure. They test, not to destroy you, but to measure you. They push boundaries to see if you have any. They challenge your decisions to see if you stand by them. They stir a little emotional tension to see whether you crumble or stay composed. These invisible tests are not malicious. They are instinctual. Women seek assurance that the man they choose can handle not only life, but also their emotional world. Machiavelli often wrote that a ruler must be both loved and feared, not in the literal sense, but in the sense of commanding respect while inspiring affection. In relationships, this translates to balance. If you are only soft, you lose power. If you are only strict, you lose connection. Women respond to men who combine warmth with firmness, empathy with boundaries, affection with strength. A man who can say, "I care for you," and also "I will not tolerate disrespect," holds natural authority in the dynamic. Power dynamics also reveal themselves through decision-making. A woman feels unsafe when a man is indecisive, constantly asking her to choose everything: what to eat, where to go, how to solve problems. This does not mean she wants domination, it means she wants direction. She wants a partner who can lead when leadership is needed. When a man abdicates responsibility repeatedly, her respect begins to erode. When he makes thoughtful decisions confidently, she relaxes into the relationship. Another layer of power in feminine psychology is emotional investment. Women tend to invest emotionally faster and deeper once they feel attached, but they also hide this investment behind unpredictability or guarded behavior. The man who maintains self-respect and moderation during the early stages maintains power. The man who becomes overly available, overly invested too soon, or overly excited risks disrupting the balance. Power is not gained through intensity, it is gained through restraint. Let's look at another aspect, the power of boundaries. Women instinctively test boundaries because they want to know where your lines are. A man without boundaries is like a kingdom without walls. Anyone can walk in and everything can fall apart. When you express your standards calmly, when you say no without fear, when you walk away from disrespect, you demonstrate self-respect. And in the psychology of attraction, self-respect is one of the most powerful signals you can send. Women do not lose interest because a man sets boundaries. They lose interest because he has none. Power dynamics also shape how conflict is handled. A man who engages in shouting matches, pleading for validation, or emotional begging gives up power instantly. Women want emotional presence, not emotional dependence. When you argue from emotion rather than reason, when you need her approval to feel okay, when you collapse under pressure, she no longer sees you as a man she can rely on. But when you approach conflict with calmness, when you maintain clarity instead of chaos, when you hold your frame even in heated moments, she perceives strength. And strength is magnetic. Machiavelli famously described the delicate balance between being a lion and a fox. The lion represents strength, and the fox represents strategy. In relationships, the man who is only a lion becomes rigid, predictable, easily provoked. The man who is only a fox becomes manipulative and untrustworthy, but the man who embodies both, the man who is strong yet strategic, confident yet composed, becomes the one who naturally holds power. Women intuitively respect such men. They feel secure with them. They relax, open up, and soften because they sense they are with someone who cannot be easily shaken. Someone who stands firm in himself. Someone whose power is not loud but quiet and unmovable. This keynote reveals a truth many men overlook. Power is not something you take from a woman. It is something you build within yourself. And the stronger it becomes, the more naturally she responds to it, without force, without persuasion, without demand. Human nature, for all its complexity, is astonishingly predictable when observed long enough. Machiavelli built his entire philosophy on this very idea, that people repeat themselves, their fears repeat, their desires repeat, their mistakes repeat. And if you study these repetitions, you no longer react to behavior, you anticipate it. Nowhere is this more relevant than in the psychology of women. Because, while every woman is unique, the emotional patterns that guide their behavior follow rhythms older than history itself. A man who understands these rhythms does not get shocked, confused, or overwhelmed. He sees the pattern behind the emotion, the instinct behind the reaction, the story behind the silence. And suddenly, what once felt chaotic becomes understandable. This is the power of recognizing predictable patterns. Patterns that reveal themselves in communication, attachment, emotions, and instinctual reactions. The first pattern is emotional cycles. Women move in emotional waves. They rise in intensity, fall into reflection, rise again with renewed feeling. These waves aren't weaknesses. They are part of the feminine psychological system. A man who panics when emotion rises loses control of the dynamic. A man who stays steady, patient, observant, rides the wave without getting pulled under. He understands that emotional storms don't last forever. They peak and dissolve, often leaving clarity behind. Machiavelli would advise, never fight a storm head-on. Wait, observe, and act when the energy settles. Then there is the pattern of attention and distance. Women often fluctuate between wanting closeness and needing space, not because their feelings have changed, but because emotional intensity requires balance. When a woman feels deeply connected, she sometimes creates distance to regain control of her emotions. When she feels distance from you, she draws near to re-establish closeness. These shifts confuse men who expect emotional constancy. But a man aware of the pattern doesn't misinterpret it. He understands that temporary distance is not rejection, it is emotional regulation. He doesn't chase when she pulls back, and he doesn't withdraw when she draws near. He stays consistent, and this consistency becomes power. Another predictable pattern lies in intuition. Women's sense shifts long before they understand them logically. A small change in your tone, your energy, your behavior, she feels it instantly. And her reaction follows a predictable route, sensing something, interpreting it emotionally, building a narrative, then responding. The mistake men make is dismissing intuition instead of understanding its predictability. If you hide emotions, she feels the disconnect. If you become uncertain, she feels the instability. Her intuition follows patterns rooted in biological survival. You cannot hide your truth from a woman for long. It leaks through your body language, your eyes, your presence. Machiavelli would say, if truth cannot be hidden, then master your truth. Let's look at another pattern, testing. Women test not because they enjoy conflict, but because they seek clarity. A test is a question beneath the surface. Are you stable? Are you confident? Are you easily triggered? Are you consistent? Are you who you claim to be? These tests follow predictable forms, small challenges, emotional fluctuations, playful provocations, or boundary-pushing moments. Men who take these personally fail. Men who understand the pattern respond calmly and establish their frame without aggression. Women do not test randomly, they test for reassurance. And a man who passes these tests earns deeper trust. There is also the pattern of emotional memory. Women remember emotional experiences with intense detail, not because they hold grudges, but because emotions imprint strongly on them. A loving moment stays alive for years, and a painful moment stays raw far longer than it does for most men. This creates predictable reactions. If she felt deeply appreciated once, she craves that feeling again. If she felt betrayed once, she fears repetition. Emotional memory shapes her behavior, her expectations, her fears. A man who understands this does not dismiss her reactions. He sees the emotional echo behind them. Another pattern lies in communication. Women speak through layered language, what they say, what they feel, and what they hope you understand beneath the surface. Their communication is emotional, contextual, relational. When she says, "I'm fine," she is rarely fine. When she says, "Do whatever you want," she doesn't mean whatever. When she becomes quiet, she is not indifferent. She is processing, retreating, or waiting. This communication style follows predictable lines rooted in emotional sensitivity and connection needs. A man who learns this pattern stops listening only to words and starts listening to the emotions behind them. We also see a pattern in attraction dynamics. Women are drawn to strength, but not dominance. They are drawn to confidence, but not arrogance. They are drawn to emotional presence, but not emotional dependence. These preferences repeat across cultures, ages, and personal histories. A man who remains grounded during stress becomes attractive. A man who respects himself becomes attractive. A man who can say no becomes attractive. These patterns are not random. They are hardwired responses to stability and security. Even conflict follows patterns. A woman escalates emotionally when she feels unheard. She shuts down when she feels dismissed. She argues intensely when she feels disconnected. Once you see these patterns, conflict becomes less personal and more predictable. You no longer respond with defensiveness. You respond with understanding, not softness, not submission, understanding. And finally, there is the pattern of idealism. Women often carry dreams of connection, romance, emotional closeness, shared purpose. This idealism shapes how they interpret your actions. They compare your behavior to their internal picture of what a relationship should be. And when reality drifts from that picture, tension rises. Understanding this pattern allows you to align your actions with clarity, avoid misunderstandings, and maintain emotional balance without becoming controlled by expectations. These patterns don't make women simple, they make them understandable. And once you recognize them, the relationship becomes less of a mystery and more of a map you can read with calm, deliberate intelligence.